Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back for your Virgo season transit update reading, as well as a collective tarot reading we will do towards the end of the video. Virgo season this year begins on August 22nd at 10:19 p.m. Eastern Time and will go until September 22nd at around 8 p.m. Actually, 8:05 a.m. Incorrect. 8:05 in the morning on the 22nd of September. So we get a full 30 days of Virgo season, and for some of us, that's amazing. Virgo rules and sits in my fifth house. I guess they're the same thing there. So I always very much enjoy Virgo seasons. I've always loved the start of the school year because for me it's that energy of enlivening and new fun and just experience, right? That's the fifth house theme. So for some of us, we always look forward to Virgo season, even though I don't have any Virgo placements. But for others, Virgo season can be a bit of a doozy, especially if you are not used to Virgo energy. So it's that meticulousness, it's that getting down to business, it's the nitty-gritty details. It's also thinking that you're doing things better than other people. Sometimes you're right, and sometimes you try to share those things just to be met with, hey, I don't want that fucking unsolicited advice. And you gotta bite your tongue, or not, because Virgos never do, even when you don't want them to give you what they're giving. But anyway, besides the point, I love Virgos, I love Virgo energy, and this Virgo season promises to be almost like a fascinating. The word reckoning came to mind. So if we look back during Cancer season, the luminaries, right? Cancer season ruled by the moon, Leo season ruled by the sun. Both of them were an abundance of endings and beginnings. And then as we transition into Virgo season, Leo season, the Leo new moon kicks off eclipse season, which ends with, well, not ends with, but is at its culmination at the Pisces full moon. And then we have that little bit of space in between the Pisces full moon and then the Virgo new moon, which ends eclipse season effectively. But the beginning half of Virgo season is eclipse season. So again, knowing that Cancer season and Leo season represented beginnings and endings, and again, just like keeping the ball rolling, not really having time to really stop and process and think it, like recognize the ending until you're already well into the beginning. The beginning is always found in the end, right? Just as the end is always found in the beginning. So that's kind of the energy that I'm getting from Virgo season, where it's like nothing is really slowing down per se, but you're going to have time to reflect on where you've been and how where you've been got you to where you are. Now, with all of that said, let's go through the moon cycles really quick before we dive right on into what we got going on for the entire season. So, and if you see me looking up to the side, of course, it's my notes over here. Don't worry about that. But again, Virgo season begins on the 22nd. 6 days later, on the 28th, we have that Pisces full moon lunar eclipse at 12:18 a.m. on the 28th. So depending on where you are in the world, it might be on the 27th late at night. But that station's exact at 4 degrees and 54 minutes in Pisces. So see where that is in your chart to see what the energy you'll be moving with there. We have our second quarter moon on the 4th of September. That's in Gemini at 3:51 in the morning. So oh no, even if you're in California, it'll be so I guess only if you're in Hawaii, that's going to be on the 3rd for you, but everybody else in the world will be on the 4th. On the 10th of September, we will have that Virgo new moon at 11:27 p.m. And then on the 18th of September, almost at the very end of Virgo season, we'll have our first quarter moon in Sagittarius at 4:44 p.m., which I love to see that. I love the 4:44. I talk about numerology a little bit on here. I love, and the moon cycles have been hitting those numerological numbers. Sister, love it. Anyway, let's jump right on in. So again, Virgo season begins on the 22nd of August. Late at night, leave it to Leo season to wait until the sun is completely set and darkness has set in to transition into Virgo season. But the 22nd at 10:19 p.m. Eastern time. And on that same day, well, I guess at that same moment when the sun transitions into Virgo, it will immediately directly trine Chiron at 0 degrees Virgo and Taurus, respectively. And then it's also going to, so the very end of Leo season will have the sun conjoining the south node. So it's like the sun moves out of that direct conjunction at 29 degrees Leo with the south node to then get into a direct trine with Chiron, which is fascinating to me because the south node represents the things we are evolving out of. The north node is our evolution towards. The south node is what we are evolving away from. Some people say it's what we've mastered in the past. It's the lessons we've already learned and can now discern to then move forward, right? That's the south node. So it's fascinating to me that the sun, the illumination, making things conscious, directly conjoins the south node at the end of Leo season, which if you haven't I'm assuming at this point, if you're watching this video, you most likely watch my Leo season video or are tapped in enough to recognize just how fucking much we are moving through during Leo season. I'm recording this before Leo season even began, but the astrology is potent. It's potent. It's potent. It's potent. But regardless, we are moving from the very end of that. The sun conjoining the south node, illuminating what we need to be walking away from, to then making that harmonious aspect, that trine, that stable foundation, that stable aspect, making that trine with Chiron, our deepest wounds and our greatest efforts to heal them. And by that point, Chiron will also be retrograde. It's going to be at the tail, not the tail end. It'll be in like the last couple minutes of, or the first couple minutes of, because it's going backwards. The first couple minutes of Taurus before it goes back into Aries, which I believe happens on the 17th of September. Let me double check. Yeah, Chiron retrogrades back into Aries while we are still in Virgo season. But that illumination of the South Node and what we are moving away from is going to help us bring illumination to the things and the wounds that we had been holding on to that was causing us to stay rooted in the South Node rather than moving towards the evolution of the North Node. And it's fascinating too because the South Node is now in Leo, which is the sign of the individual, right? It's the sign of me, I. Where Aquarius is the sign of we. It's the sign of the collective. It's the water bearer who takes the water that they have and pours it into the collective, right? So it's the South Node moving away from this overly individualistic idealisms, right? Moving into that harmonious aspect with Chiron, which is retrograde. And retrogrades are like a revisiting cycle, right? But since it's still in Taurus at that critical 0 degree, it's like the sun making that harmonious aspect after moving away from the South Node where it illuminated the things we really should be walking away from. Moving into that direct trine with Chiron will then let us see the wounds that we have experienced, been through, felt within us. It'll help us see that the wounds were the direct root to the reason why you were so focused on the South Node and what you've already known instead of moving towards the North Node and the unknown, right? The North Node path I love, but it is rooted in the unknown. You cannot know what you are evolving into. All you know is what you have to do every single day, right? But if you overly focus on where you've been and the wounds that brought you to where you are, and if you're too focused on what has been, you're slowing your progress down. It doesn't mean you're not going to get to where you're meant to go, but it's vastly slowing it down. Like, just before planets go retrograde, maybe you don't know this. So, fun fact, just before planets go retrograde, they vastly slow their orbit down. So Mercury, for example, is a great one to use. When Mercury moves quick. Mercury moves like a degree and a half in a day. So Mercury is the fastest moving planet, right? Other than the luminaries, I guess they're not really planets, but Mercury is the fastest moving planet. And when Mercury prepares to go retrograde for like the week, 2 weeks before, it'll go from moving a degree and a half a day to like 45 minutes a day, which is like 0 degrees and 45 minutes, to like barely moving at all in the sky. Like it looks like Mercury stands still before its orbit looks like it begins to go backwards to our perspective because it's not actually moving backwards. It's just based on where the orbit is moving from our perspective, right? So it's still doing its regular orbit, but to us it looks like it's going backwards, and to Earth's perspective it circles the other way around. Anyway, but that's kind of like the energy here. It's like when you are too focused on the south node, when you're too focused on the wounds, it's like that pre-retrograde period where like you're still moving forward but at a snail's pace. Where if you were to just let the fuck go and redirect your focus and recognize like, yes, these things have shaped me, but it's in the past. Like Rafiki with his stick, it's in the past. The sooner you can recognize that, not necessarily bypassing that, but let yourself feel what you need to feel based on where you've been and what you know from where you've been, the sooner you can move forward from that. Anyway, very wordy today. Leave it to Virgo season to make me wordy, ruled by Mercury. Come on now. Come on now. And then the moon will be in Capricorn at the start of Virgo season as well. Oh, and all day, including when the sun moves into Virgo, we will have Vesta at 27 degrees Aries, trining Lilith at 27 degrees Sagittarius, and then Vesta will also be squaring Juno at 27 degrees Capricorn, while the moon is also in Capricorn, so passing over Juno, and yeah, passing over Juno as it moves through. And this reminds me of something I mentioned. I believe it was for the Leo new moon video about it. It was for the Leo new moon video because it was about Lilith and Vesta making that trine together to almost Lilith, Vesta, and Eris making that trine together, setting up the base foundation for that like divine feminine aspect we've been talking about for the last couple videos, for that divine feminine aspect to emerge from like the roots, from the like the shadow side, from the repression, to then blossom up into a new world. Because dynamics are shifting and changing, bigger than us shifting and changing. The dynamics of the world we live in are shifting and changing. And over the next year, as Jupiter moves through Leo with the South Node, and the next 2 years as the South Node transitions through Leo, where I record this today, the world is already going to look a lot different from where we're going to be in 2028 when the South Node moves into Cancer. And then even beyond that, as Pluto continues to move through Aquarius, the world we live in will not look the same. Relationship dynamics will not look the same. Community dynamics will not look the same. Living situations will not look the same. Cities will not look the same. Countries will not look the same. Borders will not look the same. Things are shifting, right? And part of the reason they are shifting is because the divine feminine, the goddess, the those aspects which are in all of us, not just women, in all of us, right? Those aspects that have been repressed for a long time are coming to the surface. That word reckoning is coming up again. And that's what it really feels like, right? It's a reckoning of the ways in which the patriarchy and the toxic expression of the masculine principle has been weaponized against the collective for a very long time. So that's where we were talking about with Leo season, with the trine with Lilith and Vesta and Eris, and allowing those sides of ourselves to emerge through mastery of chaos, the devotion to our spiritual side, and then the conscious expression of the repression of the Lilith aspect of that. So now we have Lilith at 27 degrees, Vesta at 27 degrees. That's still the same, similar to what we were talking about. It's just Eris, the goddess of chaos, is now out of that trine. But now we have the added energy of Juno making a square to Vesta and then a semi-sextile to Lilith, but that's a little bit less important here. It's like as Lilith and Vesta are making this foundation, Juno is also coming in to assist Vesta in a way that helps us like almost like because sextiles are or is it a square? No, it's a sextile. So Juno's, I think I said square earlier. I meant to say sextile with Juno and Vesta. So where Lilith and Vesta are trining one another, that stable foundation, sextiles are half of a trine. So trines are 3, sextiles are 6 because trines make a triangle in the aspect. Sextiles make the 6-pointed star, right? When we have the trine almost supported by the sextile here, it's like it's propping it up. And that's a rune. That's a Canaz, I think it is. I mean, it's sideways, but that's a rune. That I'm pretty sure it's Canaz. It's one expression of it. Another one just looks like that, which looks like a trine. Funny enough, but I think it's more like a like that. What is I think Canaz is about new beginnings too, and it's like stoking the fires or something. Give me 1 second. I love having like an infinite wellspring in my mind of knowledge because all of these things always interconnect in one way or the other, right? So this is the 3 different expressions of kinaz, right? That's one. This first one, oh, I don't have it written down, but it's like the Anglo-Saxon versus like the Franc and different types of runic expression, right? But they mean the same thing. So when I said, if we're looking at it this way, oopsies, this would be the foundation of the trine between Lilith and Vesta. So Lilith 27 degrees Aries, or Lilith 27 degrees Sagittarius, Vesta 27 degrees Aries. And then this would represent that sextile with Juno. No, it is a square. But there's a reason this came out then. There's a reason this came out then. Because I saw how close Juno was to Pluto and Aquarius, and I was thinking Juno's in Aquarius. Juno is in Capricorn. But again, there's a reason this came out. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read you what Canaz represents as a rune. Illumination, knowledge, clarity. It stokes inspiration and supports creativity, related with spiritual enlightenment and associated with destructive purification of fire. And Lilith and Vesta are both in the fire signs. Vesta is also the sacred flame. So I think Vesta wanted me to bring this out for some reason. And I'm also being called to mention I went to the ocean yesterday morning for the Capricorn full moon. It was good at sunrise, so I was in there before the sun even rose, and the colors and the shifting. It was fucking gorgeous, right? And the ocean always brings me tidings of wisdom that I like to write down and keep with me. But the idea of creativity came to mind then. And I was thinking about the etymology of the word and creative or creative, the word creative. Excuse me, the word creative. It's made up of create and IVE. And if we think of IVE, it also sounds like ivy, which is another path that we're not going to go down. But interesting to note. Create, and IVE. IVE is the compound word for I have. So when you are saying you are creative, you are saying create, I have. So it's like the way I understood that is by saying you are creative, you are declaring that you are in a perpetual state of creative evolvement, right? Because creativity and creation, it's a constant cycle of creating and destroying and creating and destroying and creating and destroying and creating to destroy and then destroying to create. It's like this never-ending cycle, right? So to declare that you are creative, you are declaring that create I have. I already have and I will continue to do so. So it puts you in this state of like constant evolution with flow. So I think that's part of what this trine with Vesta and Lilith represents. I think that's what Vesta's trying to say right now because again, Vesta is the sacred flame. She's been coming through a lot recently, like at my altar and everything. I love Vesta. I love Vesta. I love Vesta so much. Vesta, Hestia, they are the same, just in the different like the different names they have. Um, I adore Vesta. I highly recommend working with her if you feel called to. If not, that's fine. She doesn't really care one way or the other, but she's there if you want to reach out to her. But that is something about creativity, and I think with Virgo season being ruled by Mercury, Mercury is also constantly evolution or constant evolution. Mercury is also communication. It's creating with the wind of your word, speaking creation into life, speaking creation into existence. Vesta stoking that creative fire. Lilith allowing those deep, dark, repressed sides of yourself to be expressed through creation. And Juno represents in our birth chart, Juno represents matrimony, divine union, marriage. And marriage doesn't always have to be in the very strictly patriarchal definition that we consider it, right? Marriage can be just a union with you and something you're devoted to, which is Vesta. And since Juno and Vesta are square one another, squares, yes, they are tense, but they're grounding. They make things tangible right here, right now. So that first day of Virgo season, not even the first full day, but it's like, because it's at the end of the calendar day, but the first 2 days of Virgo season, while, and I think yeah, these aspects are going to last a couple days because the asteroids are fairly slow moving. Ask yourself what you have been devoted to, what you're committing yourself to, what you would consider you are in union with, and how you can utilize that sacred devotion to this thing that you are in matrimony with. How you can use that sacred devotion to allow those repressed sides of you to be expressed and made tangible into existence. Because just because something's repressed doesn't mean it's bad. Something repressed is just something you have yet to embody. So perhaps as we move through Virgo season, it's the opportunity to A, become conscious of that, and B, begin to embody that. We're still on the first day, but I'm going to say this very quickly because we're already 20 minutes in, Jesus Christ. And then, okay, to amplify exactly what the fuck I just said, Virgo season ruled by Mercury on the 23rd, the second day that the sun will be in Virgo. On the 23rd, we'll have a grand fire trine, bringing us back to the grand fire trine we experienced with the sun in Leo and then Lilith and Vesta in Sagittarius and Aries. We're moving from the sun in Leo in that fire sign, or that grand trine in the fire signs, to just a couple days later, we're going to have the grand fire trine again with Mercury in Leo and Lilith in Sagittarius and Vesta in Aries, all at 27 degrees. 27 degrees is Gemini. That's a Mercury degree. 27 degrees is a Mercury degree. And Juno was also still in this aspect, making that square with Vesta. So what did I just say about Virgo season being ruled by Mercury, and Mercury helping us create and speak life into existence through our communication and through what we breathe and speak life into. I'm just saying. And on that same day, we'll have Jupiter at 11 degrees Leo. And the only thing I really wrote about that is 11 is a master number in numerology. It's a master number that connects us deeply to our intuition. It's the master number of seers, clarity, clarity of that which is almost intangible. So, anyway, just for sake of time, because we're already over 20 minutes right now, um, just for sake of time, we'll just keep it moving. That day of that fire trine, we have 2 more days until Mercury moves into Virgo, where it will be in its domicile for a lot of Virgo season. Not the whole time, because again, Mercury moves fucking fast. But for most of Virgo season, Mercury will be in its domicile, which is going to give us an easier time with that sacred expression, with that act of creation. And going back really quickly to how I said Cancer season and Leo season were like the beginnings and the endings together. It's bringing up the idea of in numerology the story of each number. Numerology starts with the one, considered like the lone person, the lone man, the lone woman, and then one finds their partner, number two. Two, when they come together, they make three. The one can represent the beginning of everything, Genesis. The two represents the beginning of union, which means the end of being alone. So it's the beginning and the ending. And then the three is what comes after that, creation. It's birthing new life into creation. That's the energy of Virgo season. It's following the beginnings and the endings and the endings and the beginnings to now create new life. It feels big, but like on the brink, right? What do you got cooking up? What do you got cooking up? What do you got cooking? What's simmering right now? That's exciting. Vesta also stations retrograde on that same day that Mercury moves into Virgo at 2:02 p.m., which will now make everything in and around Aries retrograde for pretty much the majority of Virgo season. That's Neptune, Saturn, Pallas, Eris, Vesta. And Chiron is also retrograde. And again, by the end of Virgo season, Chiron will join all of those other retrograded planets and asteroid in Aries. So all of the energy of the head, because Aries rules the head, the energy of the head and like the impulsivity and the drive and the forward and the push and the movement, all Aries representative. It's all backwards. All the energy that represents that is moving backwards right now. So there's this emphasis on like you might feel stifled, right? Especially in your mind. And that's what's really fascinating about what you're bringing into creation because your head might feel clogged. And I think it's because you are meant to put a greater focus not on thinking through, especially in terms of creation and speaking, right? You're not meant to think it out right now. You're not meant to overthink during Virgo season, which sounds like not overthinking during Virgo season, especially for my Virgos out there. They know how funny that statement is. That's all Virgos do. That's all Virgos do is overthink. Oh my God, that's funny. But I think it's going to be like especially with Mercury in Virgo, it's so funny. But with all of this retrograded energy in the sign that represents our head and our spark of individuation, right? You're not supposed to overthink what you're creating, including with what you're saying, right? If you feel like you need to say it, you say it. If you feel like you need to say it, you don't let your mind get involved with that whatsoever. It's going to be a lesson in discernment of intuition versus mind, right? And I think by the end of Virgo season, that's going to be that relationship. If you move through this energy consciously, it's going to be really fortified. So keep that in mind as well. Um, yeah, so we're just going to keep on moving forward. Um, We've got the sun at 3 degrees on the 26th, which will quincunx Pluto and Pluto and Neptune, both retrograde, both at 3 degrees, Aquarius and Aries, respectively. At the same time, Mercury and the sun are also going to be conjunct one another at 3 degrees. So we'll have the sun and Mercury together, our external conscious expression coming together with our intellect, right? Coming together with our intellect that's in its domicile, that's ruling over that sun, which is now in a quincunx. Remember, quincunx, if this is the sun and Mercury, this is opposition, right? Quincunx are the ones directly on either side of the opposition. So when they're quincunx, they can't necessarily see or openly work with one another, but their communication can still be very subtle but prominent because like if you think about it, a look can say a lot. Body language says a lot. It's like the communications in the subtleties. So with the sun and Mercury coming together for that conscious expression, that greater outward expression of the self, of the mind, of the illumination, right? That outer conscious expression is going to come like when it comes to Pluto, retrograde, the planet of death and destruction and rebirth and transformation, right? And then Neptune, disillusionment and the spiritual structures that we adhere to and the illusions that we fall under. It's also spirituality in general. Creativity too, and creation. That's also Neptune. The collective unconscious is part of Neptune's domain, right? So the sun and Mercury being very consciously expressed openly and in the sunlight together, not being able to see or directly communicate with Neptune and Pluto. That's going to be a day where people might be saying a lot, but words are wind, right? Words are wind. Listen to what's being said in between what's not being said. There's going to be more truths on that day revealed in the spaces between, both in terms of you and your own reflection, right? And in terms of other people and the relationships you have with other people, especially siblings, especially siblings, or like acquaintances from like your hometown or like quote like neighborhood acquaintances. There's more in what's not being said on that day. And again, that's the 26th. And then on the 27th, so the Sun and Mercury continue their conjunction from 3 degrees into 4 degrees. And then Mercury later in the day, around 8 p.m. Eastern Time, is going to move into 5 degrees, where it will then make an exact square with Uranus, which is a fascinating addition to what I was just saying about how the day that Mercury and the Sun are going to quincunx Pluto and Neptune. That, again, pay attention to what's not being said, the truth that's hidden beyond the words, right? Because then when Mercury moves into 5 degrees to square Uranus, which is not yet retrograde by this day, I believe, let me double check. Fast forward to 27. Yeah, not quite yet retrograde, but we're getting close. When Mercury squares Uranus, that breath of life, that speaking things into existence, and that, because Mercury is also pattern recognition, remembering what was said between, or what wasn't said, but the truth that was revealed in what wasn't said, keep that in mind. Because when it makes that square with Uranus, unexpectedly, the truths of what you were able to pick up on are going to ground. It's like you won't have, like, say you're having a conversation with somebody, right? On the day of the quincunx, you're having a conversation with somebody and they say something, but like subtly, there's this subtle alarms going off where it's like, that's and you peep it and you feel it, you know your truth internally, you feel the dissonance between what they're saying and what maybe you know or don't know or can feel, right? Even if you don't have any other information, you can feel something's just a little bit off but you don't know why. That square with Uranus on the 27th, the very next day, that square with Uranus and Mercury, somehow your mind's going to be able to put certain pieces together that maybe you couldn't see during that quincunx, that maybe you didn't have during that quincunx. Your mind's going to put the pieces together and say, that's why I felt that way. And that's not the whole truth. Or maybe that's not the truth at all. And the puzzle will come together beautifully. Pay attention. Pay attention to what people aren't saying. And funny enough, on that same day, on the 27th, this is going to be before Mercury moves into that 5 degree mark, but on the 27th, the moon is going to conjunct the North Node. So and that happens around like 1:30 to 3 p.m. Eastern time, where again Mercury moves into that direct square with Uranus at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So as the moon passes over the North Node, that's going to be a time where your most internal truths that you usually only really keep for yourself and reveal to yourself, it's the character, it's who you are when nobody's watching, right? That internal truth is going to pass over the North Node, representing our destiny path, the things we are evolving to, as I mentioned earlier. So as we're walking towards the things we're evolving to, our most internal self is going to want to align to those things that we are evolving towards, especially at 29 degrees Aquarius. That's a critical degree, right? 29 degrees Aquarius, the moon passes over the North Node. Just a couple hours before, your mind is going to put together certain puzzle pieces of the dings that you felt the day before. So the 27th, that's going to be a day of revelation. Revelation meaning revealing, because that's what revelation, that's the root word, reveal, revelation. That's going to be a day. The 26th is going to be like, I sense something. Something's a bit smelly, something smells fishy. Or even if it's not fishy, maybe it's like something good that you see, like somebody wants to surprise you with like a promotion or something, right? And the day on the 26th, they're talking to you about something and you can tell like they're not being totally honest. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad, right? It's just easier to use those examples because who doesn't love like the drama, right? Who doesn't love the drama? Come on now. Um, but then on the 27th, it's revealed that you got the promotion. Yay. And then that's what the puzzle pieces are that it's like, oh, so that's why they said this. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be bad, but whatever. It's fine. Make it resonate however you want to. On the 28th, we have the full corn moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. And again, that's going to be at 12:18 a.m. So maybe the 27th, depending on where you are. And it'll be at 4 degrees and 54 minutes in Pisces. I always make my own separate videos for all of the new and full moon, so we're going to gloss over that again for the sake of time. But we have some pretty potent and prominent aspects. We're going to have the Sun at 5 degrees Virgo, Mercury at 6 degrees Virgo, and both of them squaring Uranus at 5 degrees Gemini. Jupiter is going to be at 13 degrees Leo, trining Saturn retrograde at 13 degrees Aries. And then Mars, again, back to that 11 degrees that we mentioned earlier. Mars will be at 11 degrees Cancer. So, where is Ceres going to be that day? Oh my God, and Ceres is going to be at 5 degrees Cancer too. Let me add that. Yeah, so so the Sun is 5 degrees Virgo, sextile Ceres. And it's interesting. I always equate Persephone with Virgo energy. Um, and Ceres is Demeter. Ceres is Persephone's mom. And Cancer is the sign considered like the mom of the zodiac, where again, I equate Virgo with Persephone. So it's this aspect of the sun making a harmonious aspect, a sextile with the mom, the sun in the sign of her daughter, Virgo, the virgin, Persephone, making a harmonious aspect to the mom in Cancer, 5 degrees Cancer. And then also squaring Uranus. Gemini, the trickster energy, and Uranus is a trickster god, a trickster, a primordial trickster spirit. So yeah, we're going to talk more about that during my full moon video, so let's just keep moving on. On the 29th, we'll have Venus in its rulership, 21 degrees Libra, opposite Pallas, which is retrograde, 21 degrees Aries. And Pallas is the asteroid which represents Athena, Pallas Athena. It's wisdom, it's strategy, it's our planning ahead. It's akin to Saturn in that ideal where it's like it's not focused on today, it's focused on how can I win then? How can what I do today, what can I strategize today in order to make the plans so I can win? Because I mean, Athena is also the strategy, like the strategic planning of war. She was part of the pantheon that represented war and how to win the war. So it's interesting opposing Venus in its rulership in Libra. So it's like this aspect of our values and what we love and how we like to give and receive affection opposing Pallas, the strategic planning, which is retrograde in Aries, the sign of the individual. So there's this goes back to what I was saying in the Pisces, or sorry, in the Leo new moon, the Leo new moon eclipse video about it was Eros also in Libra, opposite, was it opposite Pallas? No, because he was 28. Opposite Vesta. Yeah, it was Eros opposite Vesta in Libra and Aries respectively, and how like sometimes relationships can be fun, but if you know you got fucking shit to do and places to be and you have a regimen and a schedule so you can get there on this date without faltering at all, know when something is fate versus know when it's a distraction. This feels like a callback to that. This feels like a callback to that, but in a different way, in a way that's like more personalized, right? Because Eros is just, it's a far off distant asteroid where Venus is a planet. Venus is a planet that holds prominent sway in who we are and what we do and what we're attracted to and how we go about things and how we find beauty in ourselves and the world around us. Venus holds a lot more weight there. So it's almost like where the two asteroids, Eros and Vesta, were opposing each other as like a distant reminder of like maybe you see somebody like trying to get your attention, like vying for your attention, but it's like it means nothing and you know it means nothing. There might be another thing that comes up that's like it holds more weight. and it gets you to actually contemplate whether or not you want to stick on this strategy. It'll bring up like ideals of selfishness, right? And like, am I doing this just to prove something to myself? Am I doing this because I'm scared? Am I doing this because I'm avoidant? It'll bring up certain reflections for you that I highly suggest you sit with. Again, that's the 29th of August. I highly suggest you sit with it. And then later that night at 10:38 p.m., the moon is going to move into Aries, where it will spend the next like 2.5 days passing over every one of those retrograde planets and asteroids, one by one by one by one by one. Again, a lot of overthinking, a lot of in the head. And with the moon, it's those deep, dark aspects of ourselves. So again, Venus opposing Pallas, it feels like it's the introduction of the reflections that you will then be able to expand on in the next 2.5 days as the moon moves through Aries to pass over all of those planets and asteroids. Sit with what comes up, reflect on it, and don't run away from it because it's just going to bring greater clarity about your truth, your purpose, the path you're walking, and the ways in which you can be a little bit more lenient and not so strictly regimented, right? Or the ways that you think, you know what, maybe I can be more strict here. Maybe I should be more strict here. It'll bring you a lot of clarity. Feel into it because the head's going to be clouded. It's going to be clouded. There's going to be a lot of movement up here and a lot of like tension because everything is retro. Well, I guess it helps that everything is retrograde rather than some things moving forward, but you know what I mean. Um, yeah, we're going to move on from there. On the 31st of August, excuse me, on the 31st of August, we'll have Venus again, 22 degrees Libra, directly opposing the moon at 22 degrees Aries, which is going to conjoin Pallas at 21 degrees Aries as well. So I think with the moon coming into that aspect there, again, this is 2 days after we were just talking about it. The moon coming into that aspect is going to be like that emotional revelation, right? Again, that word revelation, the emotional like anchoring of that awareness and that understanding. So again, sit with what you need to sit with. And on the same day, we're going to have Mars at 13 degrees Cancer, making a semi-sextile to Jupiter at 13 degrees Leo, and squaring slash Jupiter will trine Saturn at 13 degrees Aries. Mars in Cancer at 13 degrees will square Saturn. So talk about long-term plans and commitments and everything. The 13 degrees is an Aries degree in astrology. It's also representative of the death card in the tarot. So Mars is our planet of action in a sign where it's kind of subdued and doesn't really like moving through Cancer because Mars is a fire planet moving through the first water sign. So obviously it's difficult. It doesn't hate it. It just really doesn't like it though. I don't like it though, Michael Jackson. Anyway, it doesn't really love it because it can't go as fast or like be as quick on its feet as it wants. And it also has to take other people into account more than it does in another sign where, it is more selfish leaning or like self-serving, I should say, more than because selfish, I don't really love that word. But Mars being our planet of action in that concept, making that aspect to Jupiter at 13 degrees Leo and then trining Saturn at 13 degrees Aries, it's this emphasis of like, the actions you want to take towards your long-term goals and commitment might feel subdued, but ultimately Jupiter making that stronger or that more stable aspect, Jupiter's making that trine with Saturn, which is allowing you to amplify the clarity that you feel on where you need to go. And even though Mars is kind of more slower moving in Cancer, there's this extra emphasis of like having patience because Jupiter is doing what it needs to do to help you expand the clarity that you need in order to get to where you're going. Saturn, long-term discipline commitment there. And I think all of the reflections that Venus and Pallas and the moon moving through Aries, all of the reflections that's going to bring up in the days leading up to that 13-degree Mars, Jupiter, Saturn aspect, that's going to help you not only have the patience, but have the wisdom and the clarity you need. It's going to help you make space in order to see that more clearly, see that path, see that direction you're going more clearly. On the first, Mercury will be added into that 13-degree mix as well, as Mars and Jupiter and Saturn are all still over there. Mercury is going to be 13 degrees Virgo. So Mercury is going to make a sextile to Mars, a semi-sextile to Jupiter, and then a quincunx to Saturn. So Mercury's addition there, it's again going back to those puzzle pieces. It's going to help you put together pieces of the puzzle for those long-term goals and commitment that you couldn't see before. Mercury's doing a lot of like revelation through presence in Virgo season. A lot of revelation. I almost want to say relevation, which is releve. That's in ballet. But a lot of revelation through presence and expression. A lot of revelation through presence and expression. Sit with yourself. Fucking sit with yourself during Virgo season. That's the greatest advice I can give you. Oh gosh. And then the moon moves into Taurus on the first, that same day that Mercury is added into there. And then on the second, Mars and Jupiter both move into 14 degrees, Cancer for Mars, Leo for Jupiter. And 14 degrees is a Taurus degree. So I think it's fascinating that they're both moving into a Taurus ruled degree while the moon is in Taurus. Kind of putting a softer edge to, again, the actions and the patience you need to move towards those actions. And again, the amplification of what you truly want and desire right now, right? We love that. Da 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 da. On the third, we will have Venus directly oppose Eris, which is retrograde, 25 degrees Libra for Venus, Aries for Eris. And on the same day, the moon will move into Gemini and conjoin Uranus at 5 degrees Gemini. So this Venus opposite Eris gives me, again, going back to when the moon was in Aries and Venus just before that was opposing Pallas in Aries. It's almost like a revisit to the what was brought up, how the clarity kind of came through, the puzzle pieces being put together, seeing the clarity of your path moving ahead. And then when Eris joins the picture to oppose Venus, to me they're like two sides of the spectrum of like divine femininity, right? On one side you have Venus, well, and it's different because it's in Libra, and compared to Taurus is more like the blossoming in the springtime and the flowers and the daisies, where Venus in Libra is the feminine that's focused on justice. It's like the feminine that's focused on like this is right, like the way like your mom goes up to bat for you, right? Or your best friends go up to bat for you. Where or you know what is a better thing to use? It's like when you go to your best friend to tell them a story or like gossip or whatever, and part of you wants them to just like tell you that the other person's absolutely in the wrong, but a good friend, like a real fucking friend, is going to tell you when you're in the wrong. Yeah, right. And because there's that sense of justice, they're going to be like, listen, I hear you. I love you. I think what you're feeling is valid, but you in that situation, absolutely, you were in the wrong. That's a real fucking friend who's willing to tell you when you were the one that fucked up. Because you can't grow if you just have yes men around you, right? Libra, Venus in Libra is that energy of, listen, I love you, but this is what's right. And there you were not right. It's that element of justice that holds you accountable. So Venus is still representative of the aesthetics and the beauty and the freshness and vibrancy and everything. But in Libra, there is also that element of justice, right? Where, and I guess in a different way, Eris is kind of the opposite of that because Eris represents chaos and discord. So where Venus in Libra is harmony, that is the, yep, there it is. It is the opposite because Venus in Libra, it's justice and harmony. On the other side, directly opposing one another, chaos and discord. Justice and harmony in the sign that represents the other, chaos and discord in the sign that represents the self, and this one's retrograde. So not only is it chaos and discord, it's like backwards moving, right? And I think that opposition, while it's going to be tense, I think it'll give you the opportunity to really, again, it's like it's the differing perspectives is what it is. It's the differing perspective of maybe the ways in which, again, because in at the end of Leo season with that trine with Lilith and Vesta and Eris, it was learning how to use chaos as a tool, mastering the use of chaos as a tool in order to not be played a fool by those who used to use chaos against you, right? So Venus opposing Eris now is like the two sides of the spectrum where there's going to be one side of you that is like starkly opposed because of this sense of justice, right? You're starkly opposed to the things that represent this chaos and discord, but there's going to be a moment where you reflect back on the ways in which, wait, but chaos doesn't always have to be for chaos's sake. Chaos can be used to uphold justice. Chaos can be used to promote harmony. What did I say for, I don't even remember which video it was. One, I think it was the full moon in Aquarius. The roots of chaos, the roots of war can still sprout flowers of peace, flowers of harmony. That's what that feels like to me. And it's on the same axis, as I said there. It's on the same axis, that Aries Libra axis, where it'll help you understand that you can chaos doesn't just have to be for chaos's sake. It's going to be that check-in where it's like both of them want to push so far away from each other until they have a moment where they're like, "Wait, I see you. I see you." That's pretty cool. And then the day after that, that tension between Eris and Venus, we have the second quarter moon in Gemini, again at 3:51 in the morning, at 11 degrees and 48 minutes in Gemini. Where is that? Where's the moon? Oh yeah, so it'll be well past Uranus by that point. And then on the same day, Venus is just doing whatever she wants to do. She's moving out of the direct opposition with Eris and then moving into a direct square with Juno, retrograde at 26 degrees Capricorn. So we talked about in Cancer season, Venus going through the zodiac and telling her own story of like the divine feminine reckoning, the awakening, the coming to terms, the holding yourself accountable, the seeing yourself through others. This Virgo season feels like a similar but different dynamic of that, where it felt very internal during Cancer season, connected to the unconscious, right? Virgo season is more of like grounding the awarenesses and the wisdoms and making them tangible. Whereas like Cancer season was the bringing those aspects to our conscious awareness. Leo season was just whatever the fuck Leo season was, the brightening, the awareness, and all of that stuff. But then Virgo is making things tangible. Cancer season was the conscious awareness. Leo season was the adjustment. Virgo season is the like boots on the ground. We're doing what we need to do in order to make this real. So that's fascinating. On the 5th, we have the Sun at 13 degrees Virgo making a quincunx with Saturn at 13 degrees Aries. Again, Saturn's retrograde. And again, quincunx is just they want to work together, but they can't speak or work directly. So it's saying a lot without saying anything. This feels like a return to the energy of Mars and Jupiter and Saturn and Mercury all coming together. This is going to be a return to that to bring illumination and awareness to whatever came up during that aspect there. Again, on the 31st of August into the 1st of September. So maybe just like keep a journal and check back in with that because that feels like it's like a remembrance, right? Because the sun's involved now, but again, because they can't work directly with each other, it's going to be in the subtleties. It's going to be in the body language, in what's being said between what's actually being said, right? So pay attention to that, especially in terms of your goals and your long-term commitments because on that same day, it's not only the Sun quincunx Saturn retrograde, it's also going to be Mercury at 21 degrees Virgo, quincunx Pallas retrograde at 21 degrees Aries. So again, it's a revisitation. It's revisitation of the revelations that already came through because there are parts of those revelations that didn't hold true but are going to be revealed to you to put again to make the whole thing make sense. So again, keep notes, people. Keep notes during this Virgo season because there's a lot in the subtleties. There's a lot in what's not being directly said, which I think is so funny that Mercury it's one of its signs of rulership, but also at the same time Uranus is in Gemini being ruled by Mercury. So there's that added addition of like Uranus being the unexpected, Uranus being the unconventional, Uranus being that which is not like always straightforward and what can turn on a head in an instant. Mm. So again, look through the subtleties. On that same day, Lilith moves into 29 degrees Sagittarius, where it makes a trine to the south node at 29 degrees Leo, and then sextiling the north node at 29 degrees Aquarius. So that's just taking those roots of repression and giving them space almost to reflect on where they've been, and more importantly, where they're trying to go from here. And again, with Lilith having made that foundation with the other goddesses, the other asteroids, I think this is going to be a great time to really check in with yourself, your long-term goals. 29 being the critical degree of Sagittarius, so it'll be a good time to kind of put to rest anything you feel you still need to repress. Sagittarius is unapologetic, and Capricorn's all about fucking business, right? Fucking business and fucking business. You know, if you know, you know. I love Capricorns. Girl, anyway. Anyway, but as Lilith is at that 29-degree mark in Sagittarius just before moving into Capricorn officially, it'll be a time to just like release your inhibitions, to put it best. It'll be a time to say, "Yeah, well, you know what, I'm fucking done being repressed. That shit's boring, right? I'm Cody's me. Cody's me. I'm Cody, like that penguin. Anyway, we're gonna move on for the sake of time. Oh my gosh, dude, Mercury and Juno and Eris are playing such big roles here. On the 7th, we have Mercury at 25 degrees Virgo, trining Juno at 25 degrees Capricorn, and then making a square and a quincunx to Eris. Keep notes of what you're moving through on the days before that, because that's what it feels like. It feels like all of these aspects continue happening as a way to revisit the revelation, because there are things that you're going to miss in the moment that will only make sense once you have experienced something after the moment. And it's like the moments are all adding, like compiling on top of each other to create the picture. And it's like the smallest details matter. We're in Virgo season, for crying out loud. The smallest details matter. What I said at the very beginning of this video, be as meticulous as possible. Pay attention. Cross your T's, dot your I's, and maybe write it twice, right? Write it twice, right? Have two different notebooks, because it feels like a compiling. It feels like a compiling. And just to add on top of that, how talking about compiling, the sun is going to semi-sextile Jupiter at 15 degrees Virgo and Leo, respectively, that same day, bringing illumination to what you are trying to make bigger. On the next day, Venus moves into 29 degrees Libra to trine the North Node at 29 degrees Aquarius, and then make a sextile with Lilith, as we just talked about. So it's that harmonious aspect between the more like or the more appreciated, acceptable. That's the one I want. The more acceptable feminine and the repressed feminine working together in harmony, also with the North Node, which will trine Venus at 29 degrees. So it's like those three together. It's the trine with Venus and Aquarius, and then the sextile with Lilith here. They're all working together to make this really like harmonious energy of allowing you and the acceptable side of your feminine, the repressed side of your feminine, to come together in order to align you more greater to your destiny in a more full and embodied way. Period. We're also going to have the moon conjoining Jupiter that same day at 15 degrees Leo. That's around 2 p.m. Eastern time that they'll come together exactly. And then Mercury, another fucking quincunx. Mercury making a quincunx with Vesta at 27 degrees Virgo and Aries. That quincunx will be exact at 6:51 p.m. Eastern time, down to the minute. If you are somebody that is precise and likes to do ritual work precisely, that'll be a good day to do it. Mercury, our intellectual planet, Vesta, which is now retrograde, being our sacred devotion and the devotion we show to ourselves and our spirit and our spirituality. So, and Mercury during Virgo season, while it's still in Virgo, nearing the end of Virgo. And speaking of, we're getting closer to Mercury also hitting that 29-degree mark to join in that aspect with Venus and the North and South Node. And what was the other thing? Venus. Oh no, that was it. Venus and the North and South Node. Oh, and Lilith. Duh, I didn't write Lilith for whatever reason. Um, so on the 9th, again, Mercury at 29 degrees Virgo, Venus at 29 degrees Libra. Both of them in their rulership. I didn't even realize that too. Both of them in their rulership in the sign that they rule. Mercury and Venus at critical degrees in the signs that they rule. Lilith at the critical degree in Sagittarius, the North and South Node at the critical degrees of their signs. That's 5 planets slash points that are going to be at the critical degree on that day, on the 9th. The day before the new moon, yeah, the day before the new moon in Virgo. Take notes, take notes, and revisit those notes. I'm telling you, that's the greatest advice. And then, of course, the new moon. We have a lot going on that day on the 10th of September. Venus moves into Scorpio, Mercury moves into Libra, Uranus stations retrograde, the new moon is in Virgo. I also wrote, because I wrote this in my planner when I was taking my notes here, go back to the 14th of June. I wrote that in my planner on the day of the Virgo new moon. I just wrote 6/14/2026. And again, going back to notes, like note taking and going back, see what you were doing on the 14th of June. That probably won't be for everybody. Maybe it was just for me, but I felt the notion to write it down and add it to this video. So I'm just saying what's on my sandwich in my squanch. We're gonna skip over some of these because again, it's more involved. Palace has been a heavy hitter here. All I'm gonna say is take notes and keep referring to them throughout Virgo season. Write down everything that comes up, because especially in terms of strategic planning and moving forward and your long-term goals, anything that feels like it's a nudge towards what you're supposed to be doing, write it down and revisit it as often as you need to. But on the 13th, we have Mercury at 5 degrees Libra trining the Uranus, which is now retrograde at 5 degrees Gemini, and Mercury ruling over that retrograded Gemini placement, or that retrograded Uranus placement. Expect the fucking unexpected, especially in terms of your mind and your mental, and how you position yourself and how things position themselves in order to bring you clarity. Sometimes clarity is only found upside down. Sometimes you can only seek clarity when you look at it from a different perspective that you're not used to looking at it from. And use your hands that day. Your hands will help you seek clarity as well. Anyway, on the 14th, Lilith officially moves into Capricorn, where it will directly trine our Chiron at 0 degrees Virgo, and that's 2.5 days, 3 days before Chiron moves back into Aries as well. So Lilith moves into Capricorn to make that harmonious trine with Chiron. Lilith being our most repressed feminine side, Chiron being our deepest wounds in our efforts to heal them, coming together at 0 degrees of the earth signs, which grounds things and makes things tangible. The ways in which the repression of this dark divine feminine contributed to our deepest wounds, and how we can use this recognition of the things that we've repressed in order to help heal the wounds of repression. It's like this like feedback loop of, oh, this awareness of this thing is helping me heal this thing, which is helping me heal this thing, which is helping me heal this thing. They're working together there. And again, it'll be for a couple days, and then on the 17th, Chiron moves back into Aries as it stations or as it moves retrograde. But from the 14th until the 17th, and the 17th, Chiron doesn't move back into Aries until 9:51 p.m. Eastern time. So you pretty much have all day on the 17th to work with that energy. To work with that energy. So 3 days of Lilith in that direct trine in the earth signs at that critical degree. Take heed, utilize that. And on the same day, we'll also have the sun at 21 degrees Virgo, sextiling Mars, our planet of action, in Cancer, which is the sign of compassion. It's the sign of the mother. It's a sign of empathy. It's a sign of emotion, right? It's about being able to move and shift, not only with the tides, but move and shift the tides of your unconscious and the unconscious selves of others. The sun is illumination, right? So coming together with this Lilith and Capricorn, put action towards the ways you can bring your unconscious into your conscious awareness. Take tangible, actionable steps that allows you to bring light into the dark, into the repressed, into the shadows, into the wounds. That'll be your greatest friend that day. Da, 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 da. And then the sun and Mars continue their sextile from 21 degrees to 22 degrees, that kill or be killed degree. And we also have Venus at 3 degrees Scorpio that will square Pluto retrograde at 3 degrees Aquarius, and then quincunx Neptune at 3 degrees Aries. Kill or be killed degree. We're going to talk briefly on this because this has already been so long. If you're still with me, thank you for watching these videos all the way through. I know I talk a lot, but I just really fucking love this stuff. Um, and I'm glad that you like it enough to listen with me and hear me yap and all of these things. So thank you for being here. I just want to say that. We're almost done with the transit, then we'll get to the reading very briefly. But the 22 degree is the kill or be killed degree. It's called that not only because in history there have been enough evidence to corroborate the fact that a lot of serial killers and also a lot of victims of murders and like really untimely deaths had that 22 degree mark in their chart. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean if you have the 22 degree once or even 5 times in your chart that you're either going to be a murderer or going to be murdered like violently. That's not what that means. It's more of the energetic expression, right? The kill or be killed degree is you have like a potency to a specific aspect of your energy, depending on what sign, house, and planet is involved in that 22 degree mark. There's a specific potency to your energy that you can utilize to your greatest advantage if you learn how to harness that energy and actually make it tangible. If you don't learn how to harness that energy, it's not that that energy goes away in you, but if you don't learn how to harness it, somebody else is going to see it in you and they're going to make you their fucking bitch and use your energy by using you. So you either kill, you learn how to utilize your energy for your greatest advantage, or you be killed. You get used for your energy. That's what that degree represents. So the sun sextiling Mars at that degree, while Venus is making these aspects, again, a square to Pluto and then a quincunx to Neptune. It's a reckoning again, and it's a way in which you can utilize this like this potency, right? Because the 22 is like kind of a gritty energy to it. You can utilize this sharp potency in a way that honors the mothers, right? Because again, the sun is still in Virgo, Mars is still in Cancer, to honor the mothers. And I think Ceres is going to be at 11 degrees Cancer that day too. Let me jump ahead, 15. Yeah, Ceres is at 11 degrees Cancer that day. And again, going back to the 11 degree. In numerology, 11 is intuition, it's vision, it's clarity. Ceres is the mother of Demeter. Cancer is the mother of the zodiac. Mars is at 22 degrees, which is also the ascended fool. If you go through all of the tarot, the major arcana, 0 to 21 is the first story of the hero's journey. And then 22, you're back at the fool. But rather than starting all the way at back at the beginning, it's you're starting at a new beginning with all of the wisdom accumulated that you learned from before. So that's also the 22, right? Going beyond just the astrological system. It's this energy of allowing you to like be precise and utilize this like more gritty, like tough energy of the 22 degree to utilize your emotional awareness to help like snap people into shape almost. And again, that's emphasized by Venus's aspects to Pluto, a square aspect which grounds things, tangibly grounds the element of transformation and change and death and rebirth through beauty and justice. Well, I guess it's in Scorpio. At that point, it's in Scorpio. Venus is in Scorpio by that point. Modernly ruled by Pluto and also ruled by that Mars. So it's giving you the opportunity to ground that energy of death and transformation and rebirth through things that aren't traditionally beautiful, which could be tough love in that aspect. Being sharp with your words in order to get somebody to see and make actual tangible changes. And with the quincunx Neptune, Neptune being, again, the dreamy, the disillusionment, the smoke and mirrors, it's like quincunx, while yes, you can't directly work with one another, that also gives that energy of Venus square Pluto and then the energy of the Sun and Mars sextiling one another at 22 degrees. It almost keeps like disillusionment out of the picture. It almost makes it like more grounded in reality because like the element of illusions, you can't see it from that vantage point. So if you need a tough talking to that day, or somebody you love does, going back to like when Venus is like the friend that will be real with you rather than the friend that like is just going to tell you what you want to hear, which is ironic that I said that for Libra now that I think about it. I'm just speaking from my own wounds of past friendships. I'm projecting there. Let's be real. I'm also just human. Give me a break. Give me a break. Come on now. Well, let's just move forward again for the sake of time. We have Juno stationing direct the next day on the 16th, while the Sun is still sextiling Mars now at 23 degrees. So the Sun and Mars are moving together from 21 degrees, I think. Yeah, from 21 degrees to 22 degrees to 23 degrees. So that means Mars is speeding up then, because Mars doesn't usually move that fast. But Juno also stations direct that day after being retrograde for just about 2 months, I would say, maybe 3 months. Ceres is going to be at 12 degrees Cancer, squaring Saturn in Aries. So again, that just it feels like the mother and the father. Ceres is a mother, Saturn is a father. Funny because Demeter is also Saturn's daughter. And that goes back to the cradle, how I said Saturn is like low key subtly helping out Juno and Pluto in Aquarius to oppose Jupiter. That feels like a subtle callback to that, where now Saturn is also helping Demeter, who's not in any direct aspect to Jupiter, but represented in Cancer, which is representative of the Divine Mother, the Divine Feminine in that aspect. So again, it feels like Saturn's playing a low key role to help ground the energy of the divine feminine to like give her the more stable foundation, the confidence she needs in order to emerge. Love that. The 18th, we will have our last quarter moon in Sagittarius again at 4:44 p.m. Sun's at 25 degrees Virgo, trining Juno at 25 degrees Capricorn, quincunxing Eris at Eris conjoining Vesta, both of them retrograde at 25 degrees Aries. And again, going back to the foundational energy of the divine feminine goddesses, we have been talking about for so long now. That's just added on top of that. That's just on top of that. And the moon in Sagittarius is ruled by our Jupiter in Leo, which interesting. And then that Jupiter in Leo is ruled by our Sun in Virgo, which will be ruled by a Mercury in Libra, ruled by a Scorpio Venus, ruled by a Mars in Cancer, ruled by the moon in Sagittarius. So that's like a very convoluted loop of closed energies, which is fascinating. So it's like all of these different planets kind of working together in their signs in order to again set that foundational energy of the divine feminine aspect reemerging into our lives. Where it was like before in Leo season, it was a co-conspiring thing against the sun and Jupiter. It's like now Jupiter's involved, the sun's involved. Like everybody's starting to like back the train, if you will. I like that. I like that a lot. And we got a couple more quincunxes to close out the season. Venus, quincunx, Uranus, in Scorpio and Gemini, respectively. Mars in Cancer, opposite Juno in Capricorn, squaring Vesta and Eris, both 25 degrees Aries. Venus, quincunx, Uranus, still on the 20th. Mercury at 17 degrees Libra, sextiling Jupiter at 17 degrees Leo, and also opposing Pallas at 17 degrees Aries. That's just like making bigger your strategic planning and allowing your strategic planning to bring you more clarity of the mind of what you move through during Virgo season. That just feels like return to your notes because whatever you grounded, whatever you spoke into reality, you spoke into creation at the beginning of Virgo season. There is going to be strategy in the notes that you take, and you can utilize that strategy to make bigger what you have spoken into existence. It's the second to last day of Virgo season. And then we have the sun at 29 degrees Virgo, quincunxing the North Node at 29 degrees Aquarius, and also quincunxing Chiron at 29 degrees Aries. Fascinating. So again, the 29-degree mark is going to play a critical role, especially towards the end of Virgo season. 0-degree mark, we're also going to have the sun move into Libra at 8:05 p.m., where it will immediately sextile Lilith. Oh no, it will immediately square Lilith at 0 degrees Capricorn and continue that for another day and a half. So, immediately moving on to the cards. This is interesting. This one fell out, Eight of Cups upright, which gives me the energy of like Eight of Cups upright, and then the Ace of Pentacles was at the bottom of the deck. Oh, and what's falling out back there? Is that the Queen of Wands? No, the Knight of Wands. Ace of Pentacles, Knight of Wands, Eight of Cups falling out with the Ten of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. The Knight of Wands facing the Ace of Pentacles here, just how I sat them here. The Knight of Wands facing the Ace of Pentacles, with the Eight of Cups being the first to walk away. And the way I have them set up here, I'll show you the way I'm looking at it. So the Eight of Cups was walking away towards the Knight of Wands, which is facing the Ace of Pentacles. So what you're walking away from is helping you to harness the skills and the, again, going back to strategy, because knights have to follow orders, and the orders are given by the higher ups that promote, like, figure out the strategy, right? So there's this element of walking away from what you know isn't truly meant for you, right? Moving towards that which is going to bring you a greater sense of fulfillment. Interesting, a greater sense of fulfillment and greater opportunity for stability. I said interesting because the Hermit, which is representative of Virgo energy, was under the Ace of Pentacles. So this Virgo season, again, it's less about the action. It's less about the action and more about, and look at this. So you have the Eight of Cups looking at the Knight of Wands, looking at the Ace of Pentacles, and then the Hermit is also facing the Ace of Pentacles. There's this element of, and that's why I keep saying take notes. It's going to be less about action. It's less about experience in Virgo season. And that's not to say just like shut yourself away and not do anything. But if you want to make it to, oh, and then the Page of Wands was also under the Ten of Pentacles. If you want to make it to this Ace of Pentacles and this Ten of Pentacles energy, you're going to need to establish like a sense of like discipline almost, where it's like, what did I say earlier? Or I guess that was for the other video, but I did bring it back up earlier, where Saturn is focused on what Saturn needs to do and not being distracted by short-term gratification, because he knows if he even takes 1 second to even look at what could be enticing him in the short term, he's going to he's going to push his goal back by like another 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, right? Even just looking, right? So that's why he stays focused, because he knows if I just stay focused, I will make it where I want to go when I want to get there, and then I'll be able to celebrate and reap the rewards and everything like that. And I would rather reap those rewards and their greatest expansion than turn my head for a second and not be able to reach those rewards for another like further goalpost, right? That's what the Hermit energy represents here, and why I think I kept saying take fucking notes, because like this, you're walking away from what might have been good. Maybe you're walking away from short-term gratification because you know it's just, you can't keep jumping from one thing to the next and hoping that it gives you that sense of fulfillment that you will only get if you stay the course, that you will only make it to if you actually dedicate yourself to yourself and not like not be swayed, not be transfixed by certain elements that just want to kind of like knock you off your track and just for like a night of fun, right? Just for like or like a month or a year of fun. Stay devoted. And the hermit is also meticulous in the things that he studies. He self-studies too, meaning he studies himself. And he's also a master over his own like self-discipline. He knows how to control his impulses. And that's the energy of Virgo season. It's paying attention to what's being said beyond what's actually being said, finding the truth beyond the words that are spoken. Oh, whoa, okay. Finding the truth beyond the words that are spoken. Love that. What fell on? Love that. Finding the truth beyond the words that are spoken and utilizing that truth to your sacred advantage. And maybe keeping things under wraps. Because that's another part of the hermit. He learns a lot about a lot of like really secret esoteric shit. And he might be excited about what he's learning, but he doesn't fucking tell anybody because it's nobody else's business but his own. He's putting all these puzzle pieces together, creating his own masterpiece, and it's just for him to know about. Now, with that said, the chariot is what fell on the floor. The high priestess was at the bottom of the deck. And then on the other side of the bottom of the deck, let me put the chariot here. On the other side of the bottom of the deck, we had the Queen of Swords and the Nine of Pentacles. And then at the very bottom, Queen of Wands. So the Knight, the Page, and the Queen of Wands. So there's going to be an element of you that really wants to, you're going to want to play. You're really going to want to play. And it's not a bad thing to want to play. I think I emphasize the hermit there because there is an emphasis of like, again, self study and being a student of self. But sometimes the best way to learn is through experience, right? So it's not like you have to shut yourself away. It's not like you have to shut yourself away. But utilize the experience as what's the word I want? As inspiration for creation. Because that's also the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands is creative as fuck. She's powerful. She's beautiful. She's brilliant. Put on your best, like, slutty outfit. Do your makeup really well. Do your hair up. And go out and have a good time. But don't just have a good time to, like, lose yourself. Don't go out so you can forget who you are and what you're doing and you just get really fucking drunk and maybe like regret a bunch of stuff. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Sometimes that's therapeutic in itself. But in this Virgo season, going out should be treated as like a case study almost. I know that sounds so weird and fucked up. But like going out is a way to self-study. It's a way to study how you show up, a way to study your own habits and patterns and how you can evolve beyond that. Virgo season's about the upgrade. What did I say earlier? Because Cancer and Leo season were about the beginnings and the endings and how they're always intertwined with one another. Virgo season's the creation. It's the genesis. It's the newness. It's the building. But in order to effectively create, you need to recognize and be a student of your creations. And ultimately, it will eventually lead to not only new beginnings in prosperity, but also feeling fulfillment and the finality and the culmination of that prosperity too. And these two together, the Ace and the Ten of Pentacles together, it's literally a representation of the beginning is always found in the end. The beginning is always found in the end. The beginning is always found in the end. So, and I think that's why it's going to make this easier. It'll make walking away easier because the beginning's always found in the end, and the end is always found in the beginning. So, if you are walking away from oh my God, why am I like? I feel like I just started talking really fast. If you're walking away from something you know it's not meant for you in the long run. Maybe it was fun, maybe it was good, but you know there's better out there for you, emphasized by this Nine of Pentacles. You know there's better out there for you. And I think that's why it's almost easier to finally say goodbye. It's almost easier. You're like, that's fine because you have now become a master of yourself. Maybe you've lost enough relationships. You've had to do enough changes, transitions, death, rebirth, Plutonian energy, right? You've done it enough times that you know the end is never actually the end. There's always more growth. There's always new people. There's always something new to learn. And that's why, and I love that, I forgot about the chariot too. So I love that the the Eight of Cups came out and then the chariot came out too, because it's like, yes, you're leaving, but you're ready. Yes, you're leaving, but you're ready. You've been ready. And I think this is the first time you're actually admitting to yourself that you're ready. It's the first time you're being honest with yourself about just how ready you are. I think you were keeping yourself really like I think you're keeping yourself really comfortable in your mind by telling yourself you were okay with like the stagnancy. But it was almost like spirit was waiting for you to get so fucking bored and start to actually become the gatekeeper in a way, to become the person that says like, I have been holding myself back. I've been the one preventing myself from going into what I also guard, which is like so. It's like Inception almost. But you know what? If you get it, you get it. Just because this video is already so long, we're gonna do one more shuffle because I feel like there's something else that wants to be said. There's something else here. There's more to the story. But it also feels like because the beginning's found in the ending and the end is found in the beginning, it feels like there's more. It feels like there's more because it's just like this ever flowing process, right? Yeah. That's funny. That's funny. Six of Pentacles fell out. And I'm laughing. Oh my God. I'm laughing because at the bottom of the deck was the Three of Wands. I went to pick up this whole like pile, but it only picked up part of it. And I love that. So Three of Wands, the pile, and then I picked up the pile, but two cards stayed down that were at the bottom of the pile. The Hierophant and the Queen of Pentacles. We had three of the queens come out. Queen of Wands, Queen of Swords, Queen of Pentacles. Talk about the divine feminine coming together again. The divine feminine like coming out. So you better get this party started. I'm coming out. I'm coming. And the Hierophant is interesting here because the Hierophant talks about tradition. Oh, that he aligns with the Hermit then. He aligns with the Hermit then. And like doing things by the book. He aligns with the Hermit. That's what the Hierophant's about. Oh yeah, and then the Six of Pentacles again. Oh, and the King of Cups was sticking out. So at the bottom of the pile was the King of Cups, and then underneath the King of Cups was the Hierophant, and then the Queen of Pentacles. Fascinating that we had all three queens come out: Queen of Wands, Queen of Pentacles, Queen of Swords. And the only king to come out is the king of the fourth suit, the King of Cups. So your ability to be a self student, lean into self mastery in that concept, your ability to do that, to recognize the fact that your ships are coming in and it's time to go towards this new thing. And you're looking forward to actually moving forward. It's not something that you have to force yourself to do because again, you've been ready for a really long time. You've been ready for a really long time for this to come. So that's why you're almost looking forward to it, right? And there's an element, Eight of Swords reversed. So yeah, you've been ready. You're ready to get yourself out of this fucking mental prison. And you recognize now that you were putting yourself in this prison that told you you weren't ready and that told you you had to wait and that told you that like things like it's because of something external that things aren't working out. You know that's not the truth. You know that's not the truth. You know that's not the truth. Come on now. And so you're allowing like this almost like emotional maturity to lead you out of the waters you were in, not necessarily because those waters were bad or unaligned or just not for you. It's because you know there's greater fulfillment out there. But the only way that you'll be able to make it towards that fulfillment is if you take, that's not the way, not necessarily take yourself seriously. If you take your work seriously and recognize that you yourself are the work. But that's different than taking yourself seriously. That's different than shutting yourself away in your hermit hole and never coming out. And I think that's what the hermit in this case is less about shutting yourself away from the world and more about like leaning into the student aspect of the hermit, which is part of the Hierophant energy. Even though the Hierophant isn't technically a student, the Hierophant is a master, but you can only attain mastery by knowing you are the perpetual student. And you need to be a student of yourself, which is also Queen of Wands energy. She is creation because she is her greatest creation. Or she represents creation because she is her greatest creation, I should say. And you're allowing yourself to be a student of self. And that student of self, that self-mastery, that self-discipline, that self-understanding, the focus on the long term is what's going to introduce you to these new opportunities once you do walk away. And it'll feel quick too. They'll be like, man, I just left here 3 minutes ago and now I'm already being invited to work on this project or collab with this person or whatever it may be. It's gonna come fast. It's gonna come really fucking fast. And again, it's going to lead you directly towards that fulfillment that you used to pretend you weren't worthy of, because it was easier to pretend that you weren't worthy of the thing rather than doing the work on the self in order to truly align to who you need to be. And now that you've made the decision to do that, now the ships are coming in. Now there's progress. Now there's stability and capability. And also the Queen of Pentacles came out for the last like and the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Pentacles came out for the last like 3 or 4 readings I've done for each zodiac season. So anyway, now that we are officially very over time, again, thank you guys for being here. Virgo season is the genesis. Virgo season is the beginning of the end and the end of the beginning, and the creation that finally comes when we allow ourselves to succumb to the reality that the only constant is change. There's a reason Virgo season is ruled by Mercury. I think more of the trickster aspect of Mercury gets like given to Gemini, right? But there's a reason Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Quick-witted, fast-paced, but also the ability to more logically speak life into your destiny, to utilize your words, to utilize the wind of your breath, to not only speak life into existence, but to ground it into tangibility. It's creation. Is there anything else, Spirit? I think that's it. And I'm going to show you Kanaz one more time. If you want to look up this rune specifically, right, you can write any one of these three or all three again. These are the same rune, just expressed through the different like traditions. It's Kanaz, Kenaz. Its runic half month is September 13th to the 27th, which is fucking Virgo season. It's the end of Virgo season. That's crazy. September 13th to the 27th. Focus on knowledge that illuminates and enhances. Find deep clarity, ignite creativity, and spark your imagination. It always fucking comes back around. That's crazy. And I think that's it. I think that was the end. Oh, we had one more card jump out. The Queen of Swords and the Queen of Pentacles again at the bottom of the decks. What was this one? Three of Cups, community, sisterhood, celebration, and the Devil reverse. You are no longer controlled by those pesky mental impulses that used to tell you you weren't worthy or you're not worth it. And then Strength and Ace of Swords peeking out. I think we'll end it there. You're worthy of the celebration, babe. And now that you finally know that, the celebrations can commence. And celebration is much more than just a party. Celebration is a lifestyle. Start to embody that. That's it. Thanks for being here through this long one. I love y'all. See you later.